For many firearms enthusiasts, the MP5k is the iconic PDW before PDWs were cool. I mean, it would probably listen to obscure indie music and drink craft beer if it could, but being born in 1976, I guess it's more than old enough to. This Tokyo Marui MP5k PDW was my first ever AEG years ago, and even with its low FPS, its plastic body, and its super creaky stock, I still love this thing. Now Cyma took everything good about this gun, added a metal body, fixed the creaky stock, and fixed the mushy selector switch. I know it's not a new release, but let's take a look at the Cyma MP5k and see if they're still relevant today. Internally, the MP5k versus the MP5k PDW are almost identical, save for the flash hider, a slightly longer barrel, and the folding stock for a $10 difference. Kicking it off with build quality, Cyma is well known for their excellent build quality to price ratio, and this one is no exception. As much as I loved my TM PDW, the externals on this one is just leagues ahead. Everything that's metal on the rear one is metal on this one, though sadly not steel. The polymer is also quite dense and has a really nice texture to it. It doesn't really feel hollow at all. There's no disconcerting creak every time you look at this gun sideways. And it's got a really nice weight to it as well. The PDW comes in at 2.96 kilograms, whereas this MP5k comes in at 2.29 kilograms. The MP5 PDW is actually the same weight as the real one, and this one is actually heavier than the real one. It's not perfect though, there is a little bit of play here and there, namely in the stock and a little bit between the upper and the lower, but it's still one of the better MP5s out there. I really do like the finish on this body. There isn't a big jump in texture between the upper and lower like you see with a lot of MP5s. I think it's a perfect blend of matte and gloss and will look great on any gun wall. Being the Asia version, this one is completely free of orange tips. Speaking of the tip, the PDW has a metal flash hider that slots over the muzzle adapter with a 14mm negative thread. The MP5k has a specific K muzzle, which has a distinctive look but lacks any thread. Like I was saying before, the MP5k has a slightly shorter barrel coming in at 110mm, whereas the PDW has a 145mm barrel. To put that into perspective, the high cap of 5.1 sports a 112mm barrel. Yes, it might as well be an itty bitty little pistol barrel, but don't underestimate the accuracy with the properly tuned hop-up. No, it's not going to compete with outdoor guns, but in CQB, I've never felt the need for more accuracy. Let's talk ergonomics. I've always liked the ergos of the MP5. The grip angle is quite comfortable and is slightly more canted forward than an M4's. The selector switch is exactly where you need it to be and is ambidextrous. MP5s are notorious for having a super mushy selector, so I'm glad Cyma made an effort to make this one a little bit more clicky. Now, the Fore Grip is one set placement, so those used to C-clamping, well, this one's going to be a little bit more cramped. But personally, I do find it quite comfortable. The mag release is right behind the mag well, and the action is smooth. If you're used to an AK reload, then you'll feel right at home. And you don't even need to bother clipping in the front of the mag, just jam it in. One thing I've always liked about MP5 mags is just how grabbable they are. Plus, you'll fit two of them in the same space that you'll fit one M4 mag. Not to mention these fit inside pistol mag pouches, making it perfect if you already have a pistol loadout. The sights on all MP5s have a pretty low rise, so don't expect to be able to use them with a mesh mask unless you don't use the stock. Luckily, rail adapters are pretty easy to source, they just clamp onto the upper receiver. Speaking of rails, you'll notice there aren't any. You could go with a body kit like I did, or you could try mounting a small rail panel, which would be a little bit more low profile. The stock on the PDW has surprising length to it. It's a little bit shorter than an M4 stock fully extended. To fold in the stock, raise up and fold to the right. It doesn't clip in the side of the gun, but the spring tension does hold it really well. The internals are standard Cyma fare, that is to say decent, but definitely would benefit from upgrades down the road. Worth noting is that unlike every other MP5 with a V2 mech box, all MP5Ks have V3 mech boxes with the battery stored on top of the receiver. Personally, I'd upgrade the barrel and the hop-up first to get the most out of the shorter length, and then I would get a better motor, a proper shim job, nozzle, and piston. Luckily, it's all pretty standard V3 parts, so sourcing parts shouldn't be a problem. Let's go over the battery installation. You'll need to pop out 3 pins, 2 in the stock and 1 in the front grip. The plug is in the front, but the battery installs through the back. You can fit a 9.6 nickel stick battery inside perfectly, and that's what I'd recommend. The Vulcan 7.4 will fit, but it's super tight. The closer the profile is to a nickel battery, the easier it'll fit in. The charging handle's only job is to eject the battery, and sadly, with the battery inside, you can't move the handle. No HK slap here. The hop-up is located underneath the hand grip and is a slider type. It's a little cumbersome to get to, but once you dial it in, it's impossible to accidentally bump. Let's take a look at the trigger. It has about 3mm of free play before the tension begins. There's another 4mm until you hit the brake. The brake isn't defined at all, and the gun sort of just fires and the trigger jumps back a little. There's another 1mm of over travel. Reset is almost back at the start of travel, but it does have a very nice tactile click to it. Overall, it's a standard V3 AEG trigger. I'm not expecting magic here, but it's very smooth and usable. The PDW chronos in at 390 feet per second with 0.2s. With a 9.6 volt battery, we were getting 12.9 rounds per second. The MP5k chronos at 370 feet per second and 11.6 rounds per second with a 9.6. I suspect the spring on the shorter barreled K is slightly stiffer, resulting in a slower rate of fire. The accuracy with the tiny little barrel isn't gonna blow anyone away, and the stock iron sights are pretty terrible to use, but it was enough to string together a decent run of the targets. It's definitely a shorter range weapon, but it's far from what I'd call inaccurate. And there you have it, the Cyma PDW and the MP5k. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I have no problems recommending this gun. It's perfect for CQB, especially if you already run a pistol loadout, and if you run a sniper rifle, then this is a nice little backup PDW. As much as I love my TM PDW, I do think the Cyma is a better platform, especially if you plan to upgrade. As always, thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next one.